Friday, everyone. Happy Friday. Welcome to the Naoto's Nerdy Power Hour. Now I'm so comfortable saying it because I've done it like for how many times. Welcome to the Friday afternoon Naoto's Nerdy Power Hour. I'm Naoto. I'm the resident, sharpener at the Knifewear here in Calgary. I have Nathan behind this camera, looking at all the questions, comments, whatever you want to say about this. Leave the comments, whatever you want to say.
Hey everybody, happy Friday. Happy St. Patty's Day to those of you celebrating.
Oh, I forgot to wear green. Oh,
You got your apron. Yeah, that qualifies as green. You got green underwear on, right?
Yeah.
All right, what are we doing today, Naoto? We got a Denka on the table.
Yeah. So today we're gonna kind of talk about the how Fujiwara-san sharpens and how we sharpen Fujiwara-san's knives here at Knifewear as well. What I'm going to do today is to kind of going back to basic, where I'm going to use all the Knifewear stone setup, anywhere from 220 to 8,000, which is pretty much actually the same stone as the Fujiwara-san wants to sharpen or finish his knives at. As well, I'm going to kind of give you not really the secret, but the way he sharpens every knife that comes out from his workshop, which is quite a bit different. I guess the way he finishes his knives are quite a bit different from what the other knife makers sharpen. So hopefully you can you get to learn a little bit of one or two things about how and what he does. A little bit of background story. I've been working for Knifewear 12 years now, because I guess I'm privileged to be able to speak Japanese and English. I get to go to Japan sometimes with the shop owner Kevin, and sometimes solo. And last couple, I can't remember, pre-pandemic, 2018 or 19, I did this trip to Japan and get to go to Fujiwara-san's workshop. From Fujiwara-san's shop to his workshop, it was about hour and a half drive. So, I get to sit down on the passenger side of his car while he's driving, and since I was the only one who could basically speak, he can speak too in Japanese. I basically did this full hour and a half nerdy little chat with the Fujiwara-san. So that's kind of nice, right? The ask like a bunch of questions and stuff like that. So it was kind of really nice opportunity for us and for me at least to kind of get a hang of what he does and how he does and things like that. And he's visited us like once before in Canada, Calgary and Edmonton, I believe. So,
yeah, that was an awesome visit. That was back in, 2015, I think. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and actually the knife you're going to be sharpening today, he engraved for me while he was here. But it was really cool to be able to meet him, and we had like a nice long Q&A session after work with him, and sat down and asked him questions. He asked us a few questions. It was pretty cool.
So it was good. Couple news, I guess, before we actually go into get into actual knife sharpening. Toronto. For those of you who are watching from basically maybe the East Coast or any of Ontario, that area, we're looking into opening the store in Toronto. We haven't decided the date, but we're hoping to have the location set up and open our doors early, like late spring, early summer-ish. That's our hope.
Yeah, June or July seems likely, although we're still working on getting a lease, so hard to say for sure.
But it's happening. I'm very excited. Stay tuned if you want to know more about it or the up-to-date information. If you haven't already, sign up for the mailing list. So you get the most up-to-date information. Maybe the most up-to-date information that I don't know sometimes, right? I'm like, oh, that's happening.
Yeah, sometimes we're not great at telling people.
Yeah.
Will Cito and Dave are both excited for that. And thanks everybody else that's tuned in. We got lots of folks saying Happy Friday, Happy St. Patty's Day. Hope those are either celebrating or enjoying a delicious green beer and whatever else.
We don't get to pour those coloring into our river system, right? I think New York.
No, we don't do that here. We pour food coloring into the beer, so that's like almost the same thing. Well, we'll enjoy a beer later at the end of the show.
Yes, absolutely. Anyways, so that's the piece of news. Also, the Kevin, the shop owner, and the Owen from the Vancouver store are going to Japan for. I think it's going to be the first trip for Kevin to go to Japan in 3 years. To reconnect with those people like Moritaka-san, like Takefu Knife Village with the Yu Kurosaki-san, Makoto Kurosaki-san, Yoshimi Kato-san, Ikeda-san, and all those people. So it's going to be really good reconnecting trip for Kevin and for us, as well as the So if you want to see what is going on, what he does, what we do, follow us on Instagram. Follow him on Instagram, Knife Nerd, I think is his handle. Follow him.
And Owen's going with him, so we'll be posting lots on the Knifewear Instagram story as well.
Yeah. So you'll see what they eat, who we meet, what we were doing, those kind of stuff. So just check them out as the trip progresses. So hopefully that they'll have good time there. I'm kind of jealous that they get to go there. It's a really great time of the year, right?
Yeah, I'm jealous too. It sounds like a lot of fun. Yeah, it's spring. It's probably early spring.
Yeah,
it's probably beautiful.
Spring, yeah.
Probably a lot nicer there than it is here in Canada.
Yeah, maybe some cherry blossoms.
Oh, right? Really?
Yeah, maybe.
Nice.
But anyways, so without a further ado, as I mentioned earlier, for those of you who tuned in a little bit later, I am going to cover how we and how he sharpens, I mean the Teruyasu Fujiwara-san sharpens his knives here. So today, I have this very precious, I guess, I don't know which camera to show.
Oh, we'll do the hands here.
Okay, here.
Yeah.
So I have this precious Fujiwara Denka no Hoto, which is 210 millimeters, I think.
Yeah.
And this belongs to Nathan, who's behind the camera looking at all the comments that you are leaving. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to put that on the comment section so that we can answer it now or maybe later. Okay, so this Fujiwara Denka is great. It's Aogami super coarse stainless clad on the outside. This even got the very unique engraving. It says fire liquor, and meaning it's a whiskey in Japanese.
Yeah, I spent like all day trying to think of something for Fujiwara-san to engrave, and that was all I could come up with. So it says whiskey, but I'm pretty happy with that.
Yeah. So, alrighty. So, for those of you who's familiar with the Fujiwara-san's knives, it's great. It's really, he forges into really nice taper, little bit of weight on the this Denka line, especially. Heat treatment is fantastic, especially the how he quench them. He uses this pine charcoal so that it retains a lot of carbon content inside, as well as theoretically they add a little bit of carbon back into the steel as well. So it hardens really nicely. Therefore, his knives are a little harder and keeps the edge a little longer, but it could be a little bit more fragile, right? Because the hardness. Okay.
Now, real quick, should we just mention, and it kind of gives us a chance to address a question that Spoon Monkey had asked as well, but just mention his two lines that he has. I imagine you sharpen them pretty much the same way, but so he has two lines that are quite popular, and Spoon Monkey was asking if the names mean anything in particular.
Oh, okay. So here. So he has, well, technically speaking, he has three different lines, right? Like, he doesn't categorize them, but we kind of categorize them in good, better, best type of, lines. Good. It's a Nashiji line. I have his Nashiji, which he said he came up with he is the first one who puts the Nashiji finish on the kitchen knives. Let's put it this way, because Nashiji finish is pretty popular in many actually Japanese artisan type of stuff. So he's the first one who puts that finish on the kitchen knives, right? But so Nashiji line, white number 1 carbon steel with the stainless clad on the outside, and he has Maboroshi. It's the so the full name of Maboroshi is Maboroshi no Meito. Maboroshi no Meito. Maboroshi no Meito means Maboroshi is like something that's not real. It's like sometimes it could be translated as a mirage, right? It's something that's not real. But Meito is good sword, so it's it's a good sword that's not in existence, but by meaning it's like, but it's there, right? So it's like, oh my God, this good sword actually existed type of sound. You know what I mean? Like so Maboroshi no Meito means that, and that is made with the white carbon's number 1 steel, and it still is a thing. I think in the back when Hitachi was making subcategories of white carbon steel, particularly that Maboroshi uses the white number 1A, which has a little bit higher carbon content than the B kind. So, and the Denka. Denka no Hoto is the full name of this line here. Denka is the Denka no Hoto. Hoto means treasury sword. It's the it's like we usually use this terminology for those at the samurai clan, right? Like, oh, this sword has been passed down for generations, and this is
like an heirloom sword.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So this is our Denka no Hoto. Or sometimes, actually, from that phrase, we use that as a we use the terminology as a kind of saying. Denka no Hoto is like your whatchamacallit, the final, like say if you're like what you are known for, like
it's like your final form.
Exactly. It's like
your final form.
It's like, say for example, the I don't know who's into the baseball. World Baseball Classics right now is on. Japan is on Final Four. They just beat Italy the other day. Anyways, so for example, if you're into the baseball and the Randy Johnson, you know, like back when he was throwing the pitch, his Denka no Hoto was his knuckleball. So it's like one of those like things that
like his signature move.
Signature move, yeah.
Okay,
exactly,
yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, like your Hadouken or your
exactly.
Yeah.
Not a Hadouken. It's like Shinku Hadouken. It's like the one above.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so it's
like the ultimate Kamehameha.
It's a killer move. Yeah, exactly.
Okay,
right?
cool.
So,
I like it. That's awesome.
Anyways, so we use that terminology to explain that as well. So anyways, I'm you know how old I am now. You know, talking about Randy Johnson. You know.
All right, well, let's sharpen this knife.
Anyways, here.
I'm just excited because you're going to sharpen my knife, which is, you know.
Right.
I'm very privileged to be able to get Naoto to sharpen my knife occasionally.
Today, I'm going to use the old Knifewear set. It's made by the Naniwa. Well, can you actually get the water bottle for me? With the water? Oh, no. What's that? So I'm gonna actually flat this stone first. This is Knifewear 220 stone. The famous stretchable.
Now today, Naoto, you're going to use all Knifewear sharpening stones, right?
Yes.
Awesome.
So here, I have 220 stone here. And what I'm going to do, sometimes when you're flattening 220 stone, like these guys here, what can happen is that it kind of loses all grits. So I'm gonna actually use this Knifewear chewing stone to kind of peel the smooth grits off and bring that little bit more coarseness out as well.
Now, Adrian said that was the best explanation for a Denka ever that you just gave. And Will Cito said, are we just sharpening or thinning as well? We're going to do both, although, if I'm not mistaken, in the world of like if you went to Japan, you said, can you sharpen my knife? It would kind of be the same thing, wouldn't it? It'd be considered the same process?
Lots of people, it depends on who you are going to talk, who you're going to talk to. A lot of good sharpeners, they will just really do the thinning and the sharpening of the edge as well. Some places that, like, oh, we sharpen the knife for 500 yen, which is like $5, they may not do that. Yeah, today, so I'm going to talk about how he first sharpens his knives here, okay? So he sharpens, so two different parts, right? He sharpens the bevel and he sharpens the edge. First, when he sharpened the bevel here, he keep all the, what he calls it the hamaguri, which is a clamshell grind. Some people call it Scandi grind, but he puts the last cobalt on it. But it's almost like this, like clamshell grade.
Like
it's
a slightly convex edge,
convex
right?
Edge.
Yeah, but not super pronounced.
No. So he keeps that in mind when he does the grind at the bevel side. Then, when it comes to him sharpening the last edge, he sharpens the koba or the micro bevel really, really fine. The
like really fine polish?
No.
Or fine angle?
Both actually. Both. So what I'm going to kind of replicate today. I'm going to sharpen the bevel a little bit more convexed. What that means is that at least I will have two different angles going on this bevel sharpening. So, bear with me. I'm going to actually sharpen first. I'm going to sharpen them really, place my finger really close to the edge, here, and later I'm going to move my finger up a little bit farther up here. And even with this, it kind of changes the angle ever slightly. Right? So I'm going to do that first, very edge. And you can kind of tell if, maybe. Yeah.
Now, our buddy Adrian Hernandez is in the comments. I was chatting with him. He asked if he should add a Denka to his kit. And I didn't realize this was the Adrian Hernandez. This is our friend Chef Mex from Instagram.
Oh.
Who, if you follow us on Instagram, you probably see us reposting his stuff multiple times a week because he's got a crazy, I think he's up to 10 Denkas now.
Oh.
He's like the Denka king of Alberta. And certainly at Banff. And yeah, anyways, he said, Naoto sharpened my first Denka back in 2020 and told me it's like the Cadillac of knives, which I think is pretty accurate.
Right.
Yeah, Adrian, you got a badass set of knives, and I think he just added a couple quite recently.
So if you actually look, I don't know how you can see here.
Yeah,
maybe able to. Like,
looks great.
You can see where it touches, right? The just about quarter inch from the edge has changed the color.
Yeah, you can see where the patina's ground off,
right,
basically.
Like right here.
Oh, that means I get to build a new patina on this knife. I'm excited.
Right? So I'm actually focusing on just the edge part right now, very close, like about quarter inch. And a little bit of a trick, I do even put tiny bit of angle right here. Like my right hand gives you tiny bit of angle. Up there.
Just like a couple of degrees.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm really excited because I've thinned this out a couple of times, but I think I pretty much just did a flat grind because I didn't know any better. So I'm excited to get more of a proper Denka edge on it. Speaking of which, we got a couple questions. Well, you get to answer some questions while you're working on that. So the second part of Spoon Monkey's question, because I think he's going to come back later and re-watch the episode later, says, does Fujiwara-san finish on stones? Which I'm assuming he does.
So he doesn't finish bevel on stones. That's why you see a little bit more coarser grind, right? But he does finish the cobalt, the micro bevel with stones.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, which basically does all, because like he does have workers, right? He's not the solo person at the workshop doing. He doesn't do everything, like but the adapt process. Like sometimes he takes this step, he takes this step. It depends on the day, right, or the month maybe. But the one thing that he doesn't give away is the final sharpening. Give up to like other.
Oh, so like he always does that himself.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Cool, good to know. Yeah, we're getting a lot of insight into Fujiwara-san's process today. Speaking of which, while Naoto's working on this, I might as well mention, if you didn't catch our top 5 kind of blacksmiths to watch, kind of our up-and-coming or exciting blacksmiths to watch in 2023 video, Naoto mentioned, gave a good mention to Isumitsu knives, who are 2 former apprentices of Fujiwara-san's, and we will be getting some of their knives later this year. So there'll be some similarities. You'll probably see a family resemblance, but very different blades that are kind of, roughly inspired by their time with Fujiwara-san. So I'm excited to see those. Yeah, it's a great video if you haven't seen it. If you need something to watch over the weekend, we also had another pretty entertaining video this week. I think it's entertaining, where Sky and I messed around with ChatGPT to see what it knew about Japanese knives and see how accurate or inaccurate it was, and we ended up with some pretty hilarious scripts to read out. So
we have to try GPT-4. That just came out?
Yeah, it just came out.
Yeah.
Oh man. We'll see. Apparently it's pretty wild. And then we got a video coming out next week too with our man Colin, who hasn't been in a video for a while, but he did a great one last year about Chinese cleavers. And we've got a video coming out on Monday where he's going to try out a bunch of really crazy Chinese cleaver techniques. When you see those Chinese chefs on TikTok doing like wild knife skills, he's going to see how well he can stack up to them.
And we just did the video the other day. I think it's going to be a month away from now. It'll probably be within the next month.
Probably not right away.
But we did this sharpening. We tested out some sharpening gadgets that's available in everywhere basically. So we did pull-through sharpener, which we always tell not to use them on especially Japanese knives, and we prove it right actually. Yeah.
I've never used a pull-through sharpener, but I've told a lot of people not to use them, and so we figured we should probably put our money where our mouth is and buy some of these gadgets. So we tried that, and we tried the swingy, pivoty thing.
Yeah, the swingy like spider-looking arms thing. Yeah. And as well as like really basic sharpening clip that we sell, and we had the very, very like novice sharpener, like not really a sharpener, like one of our teammates who doesn't do a lot of sharpening, and gave her a test. So it was pretty. Yeah,
we wanted to give these things a fair shot, and so we put them in the hands of both Naoto, who can get the most out of a sharpening tool or sharpening gadget, and Tiffany, who these products are really designed for. Somebody who's at more of a beginner level, and it's gonna be a fun video. I think you guys will enjoy it.
Yeah. Anyway, so now I was basically putting like most pressure on just about the 1/4 inch from the edge, right? So now I got a little bit of burr from the other side. That means I thinned the edge, this part pretty enough. Now I'm actually going to switch my finger position from very close to the edge to a little bit higher up. So what that means is that now I'm grinding this cladding part in 2 different kinds. And for those of you who does a little bit of thinning at home, you will find it you can feel them and you can hear them. The sound's different. From here, I don't know how good of our mics are, but from here to, this was like cladding steel, here.
It's subtle, but I can hear a little bit of a difference.
This is cladding, this is core. So what happens is that the core steel, when you're particularly working on the core steel, because it's hotter, number two, because the core steel is hotter and has more wear-resistant things on the steel, it doesn't like to be ground as fast. Makes sense, right? You know, it doesn't wear as fast. But because of that, it has much higher sound. It's resisting from being ground. Higher tone. Where when I put little, it's got lower tone on it.
That's really interesting. That makes sense. I was trying to figure out a way to describe the difference between the two sounds, but that you nailed it. That makes sense. This type of edge that you're doing with the two different angles, like clamshell edge. Will was asking, the convex bevel, is it for more for edge retention, or is it to make the edge more slicey, or both?
Edge retention, not so much. This is really for a few things. You still want to retain the smooth entry. That's why you want to thin it, one, right? But by making more convex edge, it will release the food a little bit nicer. If it's too flat, the food will stick onto the blade a little bit easier. So having a little bit more like dimension, right? It will create the air pockets, or it will separate the food a little bit nicer.
Yeah, makes sense. Awesome.
Also, it will make the edge a bit stronger as well. Although I'm going to sharpen the last bevel, the micro bevel, very, very fine, by making the bevel, the primary bevel, at more convex edge, it will make the edge slightly stronger than the super straight or even concave edge. See if that makes sense there.
Yeah, absolutely. So this isn't really one of the questions, but we had at least one person, I think several, say that they're planning to sharpen their Fujiwara soon. One that was just, it's due for a sharpening about now. And so, do you find the thinning process on these takes quite a long time, or is it pretty decent if somebody's looking to do it themselves?
If you are, like, say, if it's your first thinning, if you don't have any big, like, damages or anything like that, it shouldn't be that hard. Always the first thinning is not that actually difficult. And this one is not that hard either, because he did pretty good job thinning it before too. What makes it really hard is that those knives that's been only sharpened at the edge for a very long time, or like 2 or 3 times, and that requires more thinning than the sharpening.
Yeah, we get folks sometimes who are new to more advanced knife sharpening. Maybe they've sharpened, the edge of a knife a number of times, but they haven't done this thinning process, which we often call hot rodding at Knifewear. But and so they ask, well, hey, do I have to thin the knife every time? Like, is this necessary to do every single time? Answer is no, but the longer you go without thinning, the more work it's going to be. And take my word for it, like I'm kind of a lazy guy, and I've skipped the thinning process on other knives. And it's a real pain when you have to go and thin it out after you sharpen the edge a few times. Because instead of being a 20-minute process, it's like a 100-minute process. Yeah. because you skip thinning a few times and now your knife's super thick. So I recommend doing it every time, unless you're like working in a restaurant and you just need to tune up the edge real quick.
So I just finished 220 on the one side here. As you can see, first little while, I was just working on about 1/4 inch from the edge up. Now it's more even throughout the bevel here. You see them?
Yeah, it looks great.
Except this part here, which you could try to touch on the stone. You don't have to. Bevel is really nice and even right here. The only part that has like the original scratches are here, where my index finger is. And I don't think it's necessary to touch it right now. It's got a nice,
Yeah, I like looks wise, I don't care. So if there's no need to remove that much steel, I wouldn't bother.
Here, okay. So I'm gonna do a backside. I think I've a good chunk of time. So again, do the same thing on the left hand as well. Is this kind of in the like? Can I just move this to?
Yeah, if you want to move it over a little bit, you can.
No, because
it looks good on the live stream.
Oh, okay. So no, I'm lining up with the camera here.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I know. Yeah, whatever works for you.
No, I just want to. Here, is that center?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So do the same thing. If you are thinning, is actually really good practice. If you like, I wasn't never a ambidextrous when it comes to sharpening with the both hands, but the thinning process made it a little bit easy. As I did more thinning with the my left hand, I guess, or the other hand, because I didn't have to change the angle as much with my left hand, right? So I was like putting a little bit more. But this case though, I will put a little bit more pressure with my thumb. This thumb here on this will add a bit more pressure. That thus it creates a little bit more angle than the flat, right? So what happens again is that the first few run strokes here, you can see where it touches. It doesn't touch all. It doesn't grind all patina that's here, right? It only touches right. Now it's like only.
It's only like half of the core steel.
Yeah. So I'm going to keep. So I'm gonna keep going, but.
So Will was just saying thank you for explaining the type of edge that you're doing and what it's for, because Will was having the same sort of issue with Sunehisa Ginsen Shiji Western Brown Paka Petty 130 5mm because food was sticking to it, but it was also like requiring more force to complete the cut. So contemplating if I need to thin the bevel more. I have thinned it already, which has helped improve it, but I want it to be more slicey / hot rodded. I mean, if you ever want to send a couple photos our way to hello@knifewear.com and just say, hey, attention Naoto, can you take a look, see if I've thinned this enough? We can always give you feedback too.
Sometimes those knives with the little bit more, some knife makers, they leave the thickness behind it a little bit thicker than others. Especially when it comes to like so-called machine forged knives. They have the ability to actually go really, really thin. You'd be amazed how thin the Kobayashi-san gets his blades. And he does pretty much the same thing as the other knife makers, right? Like he does have the hand thinning process in the knife making process, but the a lot of processes are done by this machine that he sets in and grinds it. So what it is that how they set, right? And some knife makers, because they don't want to make it too thin, because what can happen is for the knife makers is that if they make it like really, really, really thin, and where they manufacture like thousands, they'll probably have to deal with a lot of complaints about, oh my God, this edge is too thin and it chipped in the first use. So often those knife makers, they leave the edge behind the edge slightly thicker.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's funny because we get occasionally we do get either somebody contacting us when they just order a knife saying, hey, can you guys sharpen this before you send it to me, or sometimes somebody who just received their knife in the mail who's disappointed and saying, hey, my knife's not as sharp as I expected, because they are, more of the knife nerd type, like us, like the folks that watch this show, and so their definition of sharpness is a little different, and so it's often not the same as what the manufacturers are doing. A lot of the manufacturers we work with give more of a utilitarian edge that is still super sharp, but is more designed for the average home cook, like my parents who, take good care of their knives, but might be a little more heavy-handed, or the knife might end up in the dishwasher.
Right.
Like, a knife that's going to be, it's not going to sacrifice durability in order to be as sharp as humanly possible.
Yeah. So what you could do for those knives, instead of do full-on sharpening, those knives are usually designed, am I looking at the camera right now? Like this, like tapers like this, and the edge, right? So instead of working on full sharpening on this bevel, try to sharpen this.
Are you talking about like the shoulder, where
the shoulder? Yeah.
I think that's what I've seen it called sometimes.
Yeah. Grind the shoulder down a little bit.
Where the primary edge meets the secondary edge, that like kind of ridge that.
Yeah, exactly.
Sometimes. Yeah.
If you work on that part a little bit more, that will dramatically improves the ability of the edge.
So sort of similar as you're doing, like thinning with pressure right at the edge, so that you're only sharpening the first couple of millimeters.
Exactly.
Yeah, that makes sense. Nice. Cool.
So that you don't have to do a full-on thinning either, right?
Well, if anybody has more questions while Naoto's working, feel free to pop them in the comments. Thanks everybody for your questions so far. You're asking great stuff, and this is the kind of thing that helps make these shows better, so keep them coming. While you're working away on that second side, DHop310 had an unrelated but great question saying, Naoto, do you prefer the traditional Gyuto profile or Kiritsuke? I'm guessing, do you like a more curved or more flat profile in your knife?
I personally like the traditional Gyuto profile. Has enough, I guess, like this is fantastic for my cutting style. Flat on about 1/3 at the heel, like from the whole length. 1/3 should be flat and curves up a little bit like this. It's my ideal. I do cut Japanese way, which often I lift my whole knife up and do this. Even with this motion, I do have a slight rock. So if I have very flat Kiritsuke, what can happen is that the tip of the Kiritsuke can actually get into the cutting board a little bit more. So for me, Gyuto is better suited for my style of cutting. Right? So over Kiritsuke, which is usually it's like Moritaka Kiritsukes are really, really flat, right?
Yeah, which I like. Like I don't do a lot of a rocking cut. Even the Moritaka Gyuto is fairly flat.
Right.
Like that was my first Japanese Gyuto, and I honestly really like that profile. But it is, if you are used to like leaving the tip of your knife on the cutting board and coming down in that kind of like rocking style, it's weird and probably not a great design for you. Whereas if you like to pick your knife up and slide it, that's the way to go. I think the flatter Kiritsuke is great if you like to do the push or the pull cut, where you drag your knife backwards through the food and chop it down. That works really well.
But now a lot of knife makers do make the Kiritsuke as like with just a tip, right? So profile remains the same as Gyuto, and the edge profile, this profile stays the same, but they just cut the tip right off to make it look cool.
Well, and sometimes that's called a Kiritsuke, and sometimes it's called a Kiritsuke Gyuto, and sometimes it's called something else. So it can
it's
get
like really hard. There's no proper naming convention in the kitchen knife world right now. Regionality as well, right? The one called it Sakimaru Takohiki, one called it Sakimaru Yanagiba, one call it the Kengata. Some people call it, Kengata some Sakai places they call kiritsuke kengata, and yeah. But if you look, actually, ken means sword, and if you actually think about sword shape, the takohiki, it's a little bit like sakimaru, is a little bit more like a kengata, and it gives a little bit.
Yeah, when you think of like a traditional Japanese sword, you see that knife, you're like, oh, it looks like a sword. It's awesome.
So what I did again is to worked about 1/4 inch from the edge first, then lower my pressure point, or the higher upper my pressure point from the edge, really close to the edge, up to here. And once you get really getting used to doing this type of sharpening, you can do it all at once. By mean, I do this and change it as I do.
I used to sharpen like convex hair scissors on whetstones for hairdressers a lot, and that basically what I do is like work a few different angles. Well, Tiago's a big fan of this style. I don't think that's a Tiago that works for us in the warehouse, but it says if this convex is very subtle, the knife cuts better than full flat.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to get chopping with this guy this weekend.
Okay, so most of the thinning work is done. I'm just gonna do a little bit more closer to the edge.
While Naoto's finishing up there, I'm just curious to know how many people watching right now have a knife from Fujiwara-san, and if so, what shape and what line? This is my 210 Denka that Naoto's sharpening. Do you have a Fujiwara knife?
I have a Maboroshi.
Oh, nice.
Oh no, sorry, no, I have a Nishiji. Sorry.
Oh, nice. Oh, the Nishiji series is great, and it's
that's my actually
a lot more affordable.
That's my wife's go-to as well. It's alrighty. So when you're fixing or when you're thinning with the 220 stone, really something that you want to look for is 220 stone. The coarse stone is obviously it's your first stone, right? So what happens is that you want to finish shaping your knife with your 220 stone. It's like anything, when you're using a coarser stone or something coarse, you want to kind of finish shaping it. Otherwise, the 1000 or anything higher, they don't have as much grinding power. So
it's like if you're fixing a hole in your wall.
Yeah.
Like you want the wall to be perfectly smooth before you put paint on.
Yeah.
Because if there's still a little divot, the paint's not going to fill it in and even it out.
Yeah. That's good analogy.
Thanks. I was trying to think of one. I couldn't think of a good one until I got that. But yeah, it's. I think that's a problem that a lot of I definitely experienced as a novice sharpener starting out at Knifewear. I was like, I'm almost there on the 220. I'll move up to the 1000 and finish it off, and it just you always end up regretting it because it ends up taking you 10 times as long to do that much work on the 1000.
I'm just gonna flatten the stone first, really quick.
Cool. Well, while you're doing that, D-Hop 310 has a Maboroshi Santoku. Kim has a 240 Western Denka, so one size up from mine. I brought it to work a couple times, and each time my boss says, "This rich mother effer." That's pretty funny. And Spoon Monkey has a Denka, a Wa Denka 210, so a Denka with a Japanese style handle, and a Nishiji Petty. It's a great little petty.
Oh yeah, that's great.
Yeah, Nishiji Petty with a Western handle. Oh, I haven't seen that one. That sounds great. Loner 88 has a Maboroshi 240, currently in England for a new handle.
Oh, nice.
Oh wow, crazy. I'm curious to hear what kind of handle you're getting put on it.
Okay, so I just switched to Knifewear 1000. From this one, it's really the focus on thinning from this on is really the removing the scratches. I made a scratch on the 220 stone, so it's a little bit deep. And so, what constitutes sharpness? I always talk about this. What determines how knife is sharp? what?
I mean, if we're talking about physics, it's, I think, concentrating the force in the smallest point possible.
Exactly, right? But for the kitchen knives, is it? Because cutting doesn't end there, right? Yes, so that's one, okay? That's one. Therefore, sharpening at the finer angle makes sense, and finer stone makes sense because as you go up on the grit, the people call it apex, I guess, right? Gets smaller, right? Obviously, you're thinning. So that's one, and from my opinion, a lot of actually knife sharpeners that I've talked to, they say three things are important when it comes to the how knife feels or the sharp. Actually four then. Four things. So, two, how thin the behind the edge matters, right? Even if you sharpen, say, your axe, a very, very fine stone, if the behind edge is very thick, it has more splitting or separating feel. So therefore, you don't feel as smooth or sharp.
That makes sense. We did a video like a few years ago, just a goofy thing where I sharpened up a couple of Japanese knives and shaved somebody with them to see if you could, and it worked, but it didn't feel nearly as good as a straight razor because the edge was the steel was so much thicker than a razor would be.
Two, that's the second part, right? Thickness, how thin the very edge is. Yes, that's physics thing, and how thin the behind the edge. What's the third?
I'm guessing the edge polish.
So, what edge polish does? Edge polish is more like how serrated the knife is. Because those kitchen knives, you'll be using the knife on a grinding action, sliding action, right? So that you have to have the tiny bit of serration on the edge that bites, right? And so, depends on what you're cutting, whether there's no right answer to it. Whether you like the coarser finish or finer finish, it really depends on what you're cutting. If you're cutting very soft, there are like, say, salmon. If I were to cut salmon, I would use very, very knives finished with 8,000 grit, because salmon in Japanese, it's called sake, and the sake name sake comes from, well, there are a lot of different theories, but one of the theories is that they named sake because it's easy to tear. In Japanese, to tear is sakeru. Right? So, if you leave your edge with a little bit of a toothy edge, it's great. It bites into it. But also at the same time, it tries to grab the food along with it. Right. Right? So,
yeah. And conversely, if you have like a piece of meat that you got a nice tough bark on, and you try to cut it with like a 10,000 grit polished edge,
it doesn't bite.
It's not going to get into it. Yeah.
No.
Cool.
And also, last thing is texture here. That will greatly
the polish of the bevel.
Polish on the bevel. That will greatly affect how the knife travels, I guess, through the food. If you leave them too coarse, it grabs too much, right? So it doesn't like to go in as much. But if that's your intention, for example, we did a taste test in Vancouver with Masashi-san. If your intention is to actually to rough up the cutting surface, finish your knife with the rougher finish. Because, say, what he was doing is that he was cutting at the ham.
Oh yeah, the kuroboto, right?
Yeah.
Like cured aged
ham, right? And when he was cutting with the rougher finish knife, what happened is that because it dragged and they actually made more cells broken, it popped up more flavor and the fragrance as well. Right?
Yeah, because more exposure to oxygen.
Exactly. Where the one that we finished with like super high, like fine grit, it didn't taste as good until you actually bite into it and chew on it.
Right, yeah, it doesn't like, as soon as you hit your tongue, it isn't like a flavor explosion.
So it's cool. Now we're talking about what type of edge are you aiming for? What are you cutting? If you're a chef.
Yeah, well, and I mean, in some cases, especially for chefs, like, you know, like you just to pull an example out of thin air, Adrian, who's watching, our buddy who has like 10 Denkas, probably could sharpen each Denka differently because he's, you know, one of them's chopping chives and one of them's doing, you know, I see him segmenting citrus a lot, right?
Exactly.
And those two knives could probably have different edges because the one that's doing citrus isn't touching the cutting board at all.
Think about what you want so that's why the lots of knife sharpeners are saying now that how you sharpen, not only the knife, but how you sharpen determines the flavor of the food that you're cutting.
Well, and I mean, to simplify it a little bit, that's why I often just finish my daily drivers, like my Denka there, even though it's a phenomenal Cadillac of a knife, I just finish it on 1,000 grit, like a good quality 1,000 grit stone most of the time, because, you know, I'm not heavy-handed when I chop, but I'm using it on the cutting board, and I use it almost every day, and so I want an edge that's going to hold up for a few years, ideally.
Yeah.
Now, just real quick, Naoto, before you jump ahead there, that 1,000 grit stone, you didn't tell us much about what you're doing besides polishing the scratches. Is there anything you like about that 1,000 grit stone? Why did you choose that one today?
The Knifewear 1000 is like one of my favorite stone because it's soft. It grinds very nicely. It evens the grind very nicely as well. If you look at the camera right now, it's like really nice even polish, right? And it feels like it touches on the knife really nicely. Even it's got a little bit more convexity right here. It's just fantastic knife to.
We probably sound like we're just shilling our products, and we are.
Yeah.
But we designed the Knifewear sharpening stone. I say we. Naoto and Kevin designed the Knifewear sharpening stone line.
Which knife? Yeah.
Really intentionally. It wasn't just like, oh hey, we should get these ones because those are the ones they make. It was like, no, let's pick the hardness and the you know everything so that they're accessible to beginners, but quality enough for more advanced sharpeners and do a nice job. And so they're really great for what Naoto's using them for today. Man Machine 83, I hope that's a Craftwork reference, was asking if there's a big jump in performance from Maboroshi to Denka. And I don't know about the making, but I'm guessing it's really just in terms of the steel hardness, like edge retention.
Really the biggest difference that you find is the not the hardness, but the more in the wear resistance. What it is that some, like even any material, some wears faster than others. It just doesn't. It's like it's abrasion wear resistant.
Right.
So
it's like if you have like pure denim jeans versus like denim with a bunch of polyester in it. Like one's gonna be a lot more durable.
Yeah. So one's more. The Denka is more durable. It doesn't wear as fast, so it will keep its edge longer. It's this like cutting. Right, cutting on the cutting board. Hardness is about the same, but it really because the Denka Super Blue Carbon Steel Agami Super has more elements like tungsten and other stuff, right? So those tungsten is heavier than steel. Because they add those, even with the same thickness of the knife, Denka is a little bit heavier. It's just the, heavier.
Yeah, it's denser steel, right?
Denser steel.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't know if this is true or not, but I asked him when he was in Calgary why he really likes that, why he uses that for his like top of the line series. And he said a few things, but one of them, and I think he likes that, I mean, I found the super glue rusts a lot more slowly than white carbon. Yeah. oxidizes a lot less
It's
quickly.
a chromium, doesn't work.
So I find it much easier to take care of. But he told us the molecular structure was a little more like almost bouncy, a little more like shock absorbent.
Yeah. It doesn't chip as easy as the white carbon steel.
Yeah. So it's a big difference in price. Is it worth it? That's up to you. For me, I knew I was only ever going to buy one Denka, or probably one Fujiwara knife in my life, and so I got a Denka because it's it's the one that we all get really excited about. It's got the black crochey finish, which I love. I'm a big fan of Super Blue. That was enough for me to get that one. But if you just want a kick-ass knife from Fujiwara-san, the Maboroshi is a phenomenal blade. Yeah. A lot of the people commenting about their favorite, or the knife they have from him, including Tony here, who has the 150 Gyuto. A lot of people love the Maboroshi.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's like the user perspective, right? When I ask, like, I think in the car or somewhere, when we had a very casual chat. I think we're driving up to Edmonton or something, and so as a blacksmith, because he likes the challenge as well, right?
Right, because certain steels are easier or harder to forge, right?
Yeah, and as a blacksmith, which knife would you prefer? And he was like, oh, Maboroshi. I think a few things because the Maboroshi white carbon one with A, it's very, it's harder to quench, harder to get the hardness of the quenching action. Chromium, adding the chromium to the steel makes it a little bit easier to quench. It has a little bit more wider range of cooling.
Right, like there's a little more room for error, sort of thing.
Yeah, it can be cooled down a little slower, but still gets a nice hardness, where white carbon steel has to be cooled as quickly, basically.
Yeah, and he likes to challenge himself.
Yeah, cool. And also the white carbon steel sharpens a little bit better.
Right, we say that a lot. I've heard that a million times. Why? Why does white carbon steel sharpen better?
Not only it sharpens better, but it's easier to sharpen because it doesn't have lots of abrasion-resistant material to it. So it will be ground much easier on the stones.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. So it's just easier to sharpen, literally. Okay, cool. What are you doing now, Naoto?
Okay, so I switched to this. I'm actually testing this out too. This is Knifewear combination stone, 1000, 3000. I use this 3000 side to see how this polishes.
If somebody wanted to save a few bucks, is that 1000 side the same as the 1000 you were just using, or is it a bit different?
It's a bit different.
Okay.
It's a bit different.
Yeah. But that combo stones are like, if you're looking for a way to sharpen your Japanese blades, you can get that, and then you can get a rough stone like the $20 lobster stone that we sell. Yeah. And that'd be a really inexpensive sharpening kit that would last you years.
And it does actually pretty.
Oh yeah.
Pretty okay.
Give us a little motorcycle action. Yeah. Oh yeah. That looks awesome.
That's pretty okay job. It's not like mirror polish.
Now, are you just polishing the core steel, applying pressure near the edge?
I was, then I very subtly put in the pressure on the bevel as well, subtly. Because as I said, when this polish here, how smooth that the bevel is, it also determines how sharp the knife feels. So I want to finish this a little bit more smoother so that it glides better.
Awesome. I'm very grateful for this. I'm excited to use this knife. It's gonna be the sharpest it's been since the last time I sharpened it, or since the first time I sharpened it. Cool. Well, do you have time for a question now, Tom?
Yes, absolutely.
So Grant Hendrick is asking regarding the flatter profile for a Gyuto. Is there a difference in preference depending on whether you're cutting protein or vegetables?
Again, as long as there is enough flatness at the heel, which my preference is about like 1/3 of the knife, you should be able to cut the veggies, like say even like really the leafy veggies like cabbage or the green onions and stuff like that, pretty much like nakiri, right? Like flat. Meat depends on what you do. Generally speaking, I like to have a little bit of carve when I'm doing any type of meat cutting. I was actually cutting up some of the flank steak yesterday into yakiniku piece, which is the like Korean barbecue style. So flank is like this thick, and I was actually cutting like a sashimi cutting. So when I'm cutting this way, the carve comes very handy. And also I was
and you see pretty much any butcher using a curved blade.
Right.
Like Cohen, he uses a scimitar,
Right.
which is a really curved blade.
Right. And yeah, if you're doing that kind of job, yeah, those ones comes really handy. When I was and also I prepared the rib fingers yesterday. Rib fingers are a little bit more finicky because it has like this big tendon and chunk of fat that you have to remove. And the carved blade does come really handy for that kind of stuff. And because it's very it's got a lot of fiber, I actually made a cut into the score them so that it doesn't And for that purpose, the flatter part comes handy because it just cuts all the way through.
Totally, yeah. I think at the end of the day, it comes down to how you like to cut, right? A lot of people like a nikiri because you get that clean cut, especially on something with a tough skin like a pepper, or if you're cutting a green onion, like a lot of things, making small slices right next to each other, you want the clean separation. But if you prefer to rock your knife, you're probably not going to enjoy using a nikiri as much.
Yeah. So I was doing this side as well, the same thing, the 3000. I would probably, because it's Denka, I'm going to treat them a little bit nicer at the end. The bevel here, the softer steel part, it's nice and smooth right now. It's not 1000, it actually feels pretty smooth here. So it should glide the food very nicely, glide through the food very nicely. So what I'm going to do here is to actually take one of the Knifewear 4000. I chewed them earlier, so I don't have to do that thing. Then for this trick, it's slightly different. This one, I would just apply the pressure just along the edge. Because this stone is a little bit hard, it doesn't fog up the softer steel, cladding steel as much. That's why I'm just going to work on the hardcore steel. What that means is that because I did the little convex edge, right? I'm going to apply pressure right at the edge here. Apply the pressure right here. Even I lift the knife with my thumb, apply the pressure here. Then try to just work.
Watch your head down. Cool. And I assume you're lightening up your pressure on the finer stones?
Not really.
No, are you keeping a fairly firm pressure on these stones? Yeah. I can see like when you bend your fingers and all the blood collects in your fingertips, they turn red. I can see your fingertips.
This is more of the polishing. That's why I'm putting a little bit more pressure.
So for getting a really clean polish, a little pressure is better. All right, while you're doing that, Hassan was asking, hey guys, wondering if there are any reasons that prevent you from selling Japanese swords. There's a few. The simplest one is that we're big fans of food and cooking, and although we love Japanese steel in general, cooking's our focus, and we've always said that we don't want to sell weapons. Tools are good for doing things, like building things or making food, and weapons are kind of only for one thing, and that's not something we are into. So we don't sell swords. If you are serious about getting a sword, Kevin has a handmade sword, an old sword that is for sale. It's a small sword. I think last I talked, he was kind of probably looking to get about 14 grand for it. Not a small amount of money. They're also really expensive for like a real good sword. And if the sword has any kind of history that's known, it can't leave Japan, right?
Depends. As long as it's certified, I think they can.
Okay.
I think so. But needs the real certification.
Are there many people like making proper Japanese swords these days?
Yeah, there's still, yeah.
Okay.
There are younger smiths are starting to actually emerge.
And are they horrendously expensive?
They probably go anywhere from like 15K and up, I think.
Okay, so they're not cheap. They're a little more than a Denka.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Got time for a couple more questions?
Yes.
Well, Dave is a Fujiwara Denka Gyuto 195, Nakiri 165, and Petty 150. That's awesome. And also said, couldn't tell before, but Nathan's 210 is the big brother to my 195. I almost got that 195 Gyuto. It's such a great size. But I've always been a fan of bigger knives, and so 210's my size of choice usually.
So here, I don't know if you can tell the difference on the camera. So this 4,000 on the edge, just the edge.
Yeah, it's definitely shinier.
And this is the 3,000 with the softer steel. So it does have a bit of shine, but not as much as this side, is it? Yeah. Okay, so I'm just gonna work on the other side too. Head.
Man Machine 83 says I have a Maboroshi Santoku as my full-time entry, but it sounds like I'll be thinking about a Denka now. Sorry, Man Machine. And Ben Ships was asking when we were talking about the preference between white and super blue carbon steel, was saying, so by that logic, then, is white steel quicker to mess up if it sharpens quicker?
Not really. Like it's it grinds faster for sure, but as long as you're doing like this by hand, not really. If you use the big machinery, maybe, but also the big grinding wheels and stuff also work very well on the super blue as well. So you feel them. You feel that the response, or the reaction, or the what's the word I'm looking for? The I guess response. The or feedback that you get from the stones are quite a bit different. Sometimes this super blue carbon steel, it feels like it's not really responding to the steel or the stone, and it kind of feels like it's sliding, and it's not doing anything. Where the white carbon doesn't have that kind of feel to it. So that's really the difference, and yeah, like easier to mess up maybe, but as long as you're just doing this, probably not. Okay.
Right on. Okay, how we doing, Naoto?
Good. I just finished the other side as well with the floor, the shinier. Okay, so the bevel is nice and smooth. I made it a little extra shiny. And now I'm actually going to sharpen the edge. What that means is that I was just working on this bevel down, right? So I'm going to just sharpen the edge. And I'm going to explain two different ways that he does. Okay? So.
Okay, right on.
Because I thin the knife pretty nice and thin, you know what, I'm actually going to grab, wait, oh, that's good. It's a little thinner than I like, but hopefully it doesn't break. So here, it may be a little bit hard to see on the camera there. Usually, Japanese knives, what angle are we sharpening? 15. 15 degrees is actually quite high, right? Like when we did a video the other day, right on the setting up the angle, right? 15 is something like this. I don't know if that camera shows here.
Nope.
Okay. It's like this one here. 15 is about here, and the space here for the Tuten Gyuto is about how much space is there, Nathan, do you think?
Oh, between the spine and the stone?
Yeah.
There's, almost 2 centimeters. Like, it's pretty tall.
It's probably
half an inch.
Yeah, half an inch or something like that.
Yeah.
Where, you know how Fujiwara-san sharpens?
How's that?
Fujiwara-san sharpens like really low.
Yeah, it's like a quarter of an inch or less. Yeah.
So Fujiwara-san sharpens the edge really, really low. That's one of the reasons why sometimes like his brand new knives, when you see them, you see the little scratches on the bevel.
Oh, right. Just because it's actually touching the stone more because it's so much lower. Yeah. Gotcha.
Because he sharpens like this.
Yeah, and that's why the blade road sometimes looks thicker than you'd expect.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, cool. And how are you going to do it today?
I'm gonna do it just because,
Cool.
It's a.
Yeah, I want it done the proper way.
You don't have to. This is going to make the edge really, really thin and narrow, and makes the edge too brittle. Just so you know. So, I'm gonna actually show you the trick at the end to prevent that from chipping it as easy.
That would be awesome because I do take good care of my knives, but I'm a little heavy-handed on them. Yeah. I'm the only person that uses my Denka, so I'm not too worried. But
so this is like as low, like this is low, right? Pretty low.
Yeah, it certainly looks like 8 degrees or something. Like it's a really, really low angle.
Yeah. And here, back to.
So, just while you're finishing that up, Matthew P was asking, why is the Denka so expensive? It is substantially more money than the Maboroshi. You know, in general, I think part of the reason they both cost more than your average knife is because he puts a lot of work into making them.
Yeah,
the traditional blacksmith.
Yeah, especially like lamination on it is harder for the super blue. The super blue carbon steel, as I said, it is easier for heat treatment. Didn't I say that, right? I said. But when it comes to the regular forging temperature, or the the lamination temperature, it is very finicky. Higher you heat up your steel, it's easier to forge weld. Right? But oftentimes, a lot of steels have like nice kind of range that they can tolerate. And say for example, white carbon steel, if you forge weld it at a tiny bit higher temperature, what will happen is that it forge welds, but the the structure, steel structure of each carbides sometimes becomes a little bit bigger. That's what happens is that it can cause the knife to chip a little bit easier. But that's it. Where super blue, if you heat up tiny bit more, it crumbles.
Oh wow!
And you can't make a knife out of it.
It's a big problem.
Yeah.
Huh. So it's really fussy steel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For that kind of
purpose. For that part of the process. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And as a raw material, would you speculate that super blue might be more expensive as well?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
To buy
it's got a more material. Things in it, right?
It's like using, going to the hardware store and buying cedar versus like pine or something.
Yeah. No, you think about more like like soup has 2 ingredients versus like 10 ingredients.
Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah. Totally.
It basically has more ingredients in it, right? So.
Yeah, it's probably trickier for the factory to make.
Yeah.
Okay, what's next, Naoto?
So here, just gonna move up to 4,000, and I'm gonna actually retain the same angle as I was sharpening. So I don't know. Again, you can't see them, but it's from Nathan's viewpoint. It's like really, really low, I think.
Yeah, it's super, super low. Yeah, there's only, maybe 5 millimeters of space between the stone and the spine of the knife. Yeah, good quarter of an inch or less.
Yeah. I asked actually why he does the way he sharpens. And he's like, he's just basically confident.
That sounds like Fujiwara-san.
Yeah, he's like...
He is the most confident knife maker I've ever met.
Yeah, he's like... Because he believes and he knows that his heat treatment can take this edge, right?
And I mean, he designs his knives for people that are going to take care of them. Like
Yeah.
He
said that on the spring hammer too, right?
Yeah. He's like these aren't knives for just anybody. Like
he's like
these aren't knives for just like they're the opposite of like the knives that are sharpened for the average home cook. Like he's like, no, these knives are sharpened for like serious people who are going to take really good care of them.
It was a little bit of hard to translate, but I did translate exactly what he said. He's like, if you buy a car and crash into the pole and whose fault is that? I'm like, okay.
Sort of the sounds like a you problem kind of approach.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't do that, right?
No, but I think the reality is, Denkas are made for people who are going to take good care of them. And I think the kind of person that's going to spend that kind of money on a knife is going to either know how to take care of it already or is going to put in the effort to learn. And it's not that hard, but it's not the knife you just, you lend to somebody because they forgot to bring theirs to work.
No, that's the wrong.
Tiago's asking, do you prefer convex or hollow grind gyuto?
I personally don't like hollow grind gyuto. If it's intentionally hollow for food separation reason, maybe. But from the user's standpoint, as well as sharpener's standpoint, I personally don't like the hollow grind knives.
Okay, there we go. Well, Dave says that knife is going to kick butt. Watching this process has been super cool, too. Matthew was asking, this is a tough one. Do you know when Knifewear is getting new Maruyama Shiro Suita stones?
Oh, that's difficult.
Yeah. Natural
we
stones
ask
are a
them
tough
occasionally,
They're harder to get than, Takedas.
We ask them occasionally. They have their own website to sell, and oftentimes what they say, or what they like is that they don't, those stones are so popular that they don't have to do any effort to sell them.
Yeah, they don't have to market them. They don't have to.
Yeah,
really
we're just gonna put that on our website.
Here you go. This is how much money.
Yeah. It's sold. Oh, okay.
Yeah. There's they don't have much reason to send us any. Boom Monkey was asking what the kanji says on the Denka.
This?
Yeah.
Two characters on the first. I think I don't know if he's stopped or he is still doing, but the Toko means the swordsmith. Fujiwara Teruyasu Saku as a made by. And on the other side, it's the fire liquor, meaning what do you call that? The whiskey.
Do we want to address the elephant in the room? You remember the two little kanji they used to put on the knife sometimes?
This here?
Does mine have that on it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, this one has one.
Yeah.
It says the Toko, the swordsmith.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Some has them. We asked them why some has and why some don't. He's like, sometimes forget.
Yeah. We used to think it meant something special. I think a lot of people used to think that it meant these ones were special, these ones were finished by him. No, it's just sometimes he remembers to put them on, sometimes he doesn't. Oh man. You got time for a question now, Tom?
Yeah.
Hassan had another good one. Is it personal preference sharpening with a soft stone versus a hard stone, or is it depending on the kind of steel you're sharpening?
It depends on the type of finish you're actually trying to attain. That's really the good analogy. If you want to sharpen this, like for example, this particular way, right now I'm sharpening the last bit of so-called koba, right, or the micro bevel. You want to have a hard stone, because the softer stone often, when you actually try to like sharpen the very edge or something like that and put the tiny bit more pressure than you need to, it can scrape off the stone. That's not the greatest, because now you have to spend like very long time fixing it with the Turing stone and diamond stone. So softer stone is great. Few reasons. Softer stone is great so that it blends the finish really nice and even, and also softer, harder stones like softer, higher grit stones like Kitayama, Arashiyama. Arashiyama is fantastic, 6,000, or the Naniwa super stones. They're fantastic because they polish the edge very, very nicely, but not necessarily again the greatest stone to like try to sharpen the very edge with a little bit of pressure. It can gouge.
Yeah, I have a super 3000 and a Arashiyama 6000, and both great stones, but I've stabbed them many times.
Yeah.
And
when you stab them, you have to like chew them, right?
It sucks. Yeah. Okay, how we doing?
Pretty good. I'm just
While you're finishing that up, Keiichi 1111 said, is there a difference in maximum edge fineness between Aogami Super and Shogami number 1?
If you, I think, look at a very, like, really, really nerdy level, white carbon steel will probably have can take finer edge. By mean because again it doesn't have a lot of impurities. I don't want to call it impurities, but it doesn't have a lot of ingredients in it. It's like steel and carbon, so the grain gets much more even. Where say for example the super blue carbon has tiny bit of chromium, tiny bit of tungsten, and any of those ones will create so-called the chromium carbide or tungsten carbide. That is usually bigger than the other carbides, or the different size even, right? And size matters, so that variation.
You heard it here
matters,
first,
right?
folks. Size matters, says Naoto.
Variation difference, right? So I think it can take the white carbon steel can take a little bit of finer edge if you sharpen them at the same, like say, really 8,000.
Cool.
If it's noticeable, maybe.
Yeah, maybe to like super knife nerds, as opposed like, if I gave one of each to like, one of my parents and said, "Tell me the difference," I don't think they would know.
So yeah, definitely that's theoretically yes. In reality, it's kind of hard to tell, I think.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. Okay. What's next?
Move down on to the 8,000 grit. This is pretty much the pretty much same stone as the Naniwa Junpaku 8,000 or Naniwa traditional 8,000. It's really, really fine stone, and this is the stone that the Fujiwara-san was finishing his knives with. So I decided. I don't usually finish the chef's knives with this here because it kind of loses its teeth.
Yeah, I don't either, but I'm curious to see how it works. Oh, watch your head, Naoto. But yeah, I'm excited to be getting the full Fujiwara treatment today.
Yeah, because it's like the day that I'm gonna talk about Fujiwara sharpening. I decided to bring the 8,000.
So here's a question for myself, but I think also for people watching. If you have a knife like this, like say you got a Fujiwara knife, It's polished up to 8,000 grit. You love it. You use it for a couple months. It starts to kind of not feel so magical anymore because it's got that really fine polish. What would be a great stone to kind of just tune that edge up on without removing too much steel, without, but that's going to help it stay sharp?
What I would probably grab is the 4,000 for the knives that you, like, say, if I finish this at 8,000 at very low angle like Fujiwara does, like this, what I would suggest is grab a 4,000. Instead of sharpening at his angle, like 8 degrees, raise it regular 15 and sharpen them 4,000. That doesn't remove that much of steel off and makes the edge really nice and fine.
Okay,
it's
cool.
going to be really quick honing job for that.
Sweet. So we talked about how to sharpen the knife like Fujiwara-san today. I assume a little later we'll talk about maybe if somebody wants to do a little more practical type of edge.
Oh yeah,
as well.
absolutely.
Okay,
absolutely,
awesome,
yeah.
awesome. Great. How are we looking?
Yeah, this is gonna be good. Like Fujiwara, his sharpening, it's like really low angle.
That explains why they just feel like crazy, like otherworldly out of the box.
Yeah, out of the box, right? Especially.
Okay, folks. Well, we got some more time, so feel free to ask some more questions. Lots of good ones today. Spoon Monkey was asking, what would be the difference between the year 2000 Denka and a 2023 Denka? Has Fujiwara-san changed over time? Like, pretty much every blacksmith changes and learns new skills or refines their skills. What would be the differences?
No, I'm not. Like, I've seen some different, change in thickness. Kind of went to a little thicker and came back a little thinner. Not quite sure. To be quite honest, the real big difference is that we definitely in the internet world, there are some, question about little sharpening ability ones, like while, like the ones like the we are getting is pretty good now. Not as many, but.
Yeah, we're not seeing as many anymore. I mean, he's not a young guy, so like many of the makers we work with, if you're looking to get a knife from one of these fellows, don't wait forever. There's you don't need to buy now. I'm not going to tell you that, but maybe start saving up now if you're looking to get one of these. If you'd be really sad if you never got a Fujiwara knife or a Takeda knife, you probably want to jump on one sooner rather than later, because they retire, right? Yeah, we saw that with Kigura-san, right? I never bought a Kigura-san knife, and now I can't get one.
The retirement is definitely a thing. A lot of knife makers, they pass that torch down to the younger generations. For example, the Takeda-san's place. I know Takeda-san may retire. There are two workers, Yusui-san and Tansho-san. Tansho-san's already at the retiring age, and so as a regular retirement, like 65.
Right, Canadian retirement age.
Yeah, as the in Japan as well, like that's the typical retirement age for regular workers.
Yeah, yeah.
He still goes
like
there
in your office or construction
exactly,
or whatever.
Exactly. So one good thing about Takeda-san is that although they are apprentices, they do treat like real workers. So like they say, oh yeah, you're at the retirement age, that kind of stuff. And if you decide, you can just retire. He I think still goes there and work, but the Yusui-san is still pretty young, like in his like mid 40s, maybe late 40s. Not quite sure if he's going to, pass the entire torch down to him, though. That's oftentimes but you never know. But he does.
Yeah, hard to say.
The Yusui-san does like a lot of work. Tansho-san and Yusui-san does a lot of work, like heavy lifting work as well. Like Yusui-san does really good job sharpening, and Tansho-san does a lot of forging as well.
Well, yeah, because Takeda-san's he's not a young man. He's like in his 70s, isn't he?
Yeah, probably in this.
Yeah, somewhere around there. But that's like Andrew-san, like he was still coming to work all the time. I think he still probably shows up at the factory pretty regularly, but he was
Kato as well.
And Kato too, yeah. And they're like, but Unruh-san's like got to be getting close to 80, right?
Yeah. So see here, this is very typical. Like that is very typical Fujiwara.
Oh yeah, yeah. I've seen that lots. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's how he. That's why you get the little finish like that on there.
It's funny. It does look like it was sharpened by him. Like now I see why they have such an unusual look on the bevel.
Like I don't know if you can see here. At the heel, like here, this part. It's really hard to see. There's quite a bit of unevenness right here.
We can see it on our camera for sure.
Okay.
Here, I'll switch the full hands.
Because we did I did the sharpen at very, very fine angle. It touches the part that undesirable part, I guess, for the look. But that causes a little bit of unevenness. But this sure is going to cut crazy. But I don't think this is like that much a practical edge. So what I'm going to do to show you is it's like a really, lots of people call this a kobadome or itohadome or put in the itoha. Ito means the thread. So ha means edge, right? So I am going to put this itoha or a very subtle, stronger edge on this guy. Like a lot of knife makers, a lot of sharpeners for single bevel do this trick. Because
I think you mentioned that exact term in your single bevel, comprehensive single bevel sharpening video. Yeah, which is a great video. I learned a ton from that one.
Because I sharpen this at the very low angle here, the edge is very thin. So what I'm going to do is, again, raise it to like 15 degrees. Then I don't need ton. Like I just do a few passes so as the back. This will create the very tiny micro edge, even from like super micro edge on at the end. That will become the first things to touch on the food, also first thing to touch on the cutting board. Great thing about this is that it's like edge goes like this, and I put very fine 15-degree edge like this. So by doing this, it will prevent the knife from actually sticking into the cutting board as much as it does with the very fine edge, and it will lessen the chance to chip the edge by actually getting into too deep onto the cutting board. And
that's perfect because I'm very good at doing that.
And also having that, it will make the edge slightly stronger. Like
I really appreciate that. I think that's gonna make it a lot more functional.
It's almost like I see this as the stitching the fabric at the end to prevent the fraying. Hemming.
Yeah, totally. And that makes absolute sense. Okay, cool. Thank you, Naoto. Are we done now? Is that? I mean, we're not done live stream, but
done. If
sharpening's
there's
done.
any.
Yeah. If you guys have questions about what Naoto's done today or other general questions for him, pop them in the comments. We got a few more to follow up on. Dave was asking, I have a Masakage Kujira Sentoku.
Ooh.
Speaking of Kagura-san, it's really thick, so would it be a good candidate for a thinning session?
Yes, but careful. We had that's something you should definitely thin it for the function's sake. I think you should thin it from the shoulders first. Basically, I mean you should just thin about the 1/4 inch from the edge first. I found like I've thinned a few Kageura-sans and had a really hard time bringing the Damascus back for that look.
Oh, really?
Yeah, for some reason. And the bevel, the Kageura-san's knife have this line, right? Like looks like this shinogi line, but it's actually not a shinogi. If you actually touch them, there's no distinct, I guess, the line on that blade. And apparently Kevin asked him how, and the Kageura-san's answer is like winked, and it's just the skill or something like that. And
yeah. Okay.
So just careful.
So the answer is send it to Naoto. No, I'm kidding.
No.
Yeah, just take your time. Email Naoto if you have questions.
Yeah.
Okay, here's a good one from Grant. Always with the good questions, Grant. Loaded question. Love it. Which line does Naoto prefer to sharpen and thin between Masashi versus Fujiwara-san in terms of the 4 different steels used and the edge geometry of each? What's your favorite?
My favorite steel to thin, like among those 4, I guess, Masashi and stuff. I like, well, for the edge quality, the steel type, Fujiwara-san's white carbon 1 or 2, or the 1A or 1B. So I like Maboroshi or the Nashiji because it just reacts very nicely. It responds. It feels very nice while you're actually working on a stone. It grinds very nicely. It's not fussy, anything like that. So I like those guys. When it comes to the edge geometry, I like Masashi-san's new Kaijin line. It has really nice convexity, enough convex and very few low spots. That makes it really, really easy to thin, and make it really easy to make the same kind of like look to it as well. SLD is great. His Kokuen line, well, fortunately enough, I haven't actually thinned that Kokuen yet. It's still pretty new, right? And personally, I haven't thinned the Kokuen yet. Kaijin was pretty good, but the same kind of steel I had thinned his the former Kimuri line.
Oh yeah.
It was really nice as well. It was very responsive to the steel or the sharpening stone that I was using, so I made it really easy to thin. Yeah, so I would imagine Kokuen line is going to be like that as well. His 2 Damascus lines are a little bit more difficult because the steel outer layer steel that he chose for the look is a little bit more hard and a little bit more abrasion resistant. So it's a bit harder to actually do that job.
Cool. I do know, at least with this Kokuen line, there's some pretty cool like metal flow that I've noticed in there. Is there any way to bring that out when you sharpen it, or is that just not really?
The combination of what he does.
Yeah, his secret
said,
sauce.
No, and he said like, I even asked like, can you replicate that, like the metal flow? And he's like, no, it happens sometimes. Like, okay.
Just lucky.
Yeah.
Well, Grant also says he really likes his Masashi Kaijin Hanasuki. I'm jealous. I think I'll probably get that knife at some point. Yeah. Benjamin had asked a while ago, do you prefer Fujiwara-san's Shirogami No. 1 or Aogami Super? I'm Aogami Super all the way. How about you, Naoto?
I'm probably Shirogami guy again. For sharpening, and also it does feel like it takes a little bit more finer edge by putting the same stone like 8,000. They take a little bit finer edge, it seems. So.
Okay. Andrew asked, there is a sharpener whose name I have forgotten, that polishes one side with 4,000 to get the best of both worlds with, say, 1,000 grit on the other side.
Yeah.
I'm guessing this is in reference to Shibata-san. What's your opinion?
I think it works pretty well. When I'm looking at the that type of, it is like pretty actually common practice for knife like deba. The backside that the uraoshi they finish with really fine, like a 4,000, but the front side, the koba, they finish at a little bit of finer. And I suspect this is what's happening. This is what I suspect. Like theoretically, the edge is like a bunch of teeth, right? Like if you look at a microscope, you see the little teeth. What I suspect is that the when you finish one side with coarser stone, like 1,000, the other side finer stone, what happens is like makes it like a shark teeth. Shark teeth is bigger like this, bigger peaks and valleys, but shark teeth has its own serration, right?
Right, yeah, like serrations on serrations.
Yeah. I think that's what's happening and what that sharpener Shibata-san is trying to attain. And we haven't, I don't think anyone has really done research on that.
Yeah, we got to get Kevin to spring for a we did a video about the sharpening technique in the fall last year. And somebody left a comment, because there are people out there who have websites, and I can't remember any of the names right now, but people who do spend way more time on this and have crazy high powered microscopes, look at this kind of stuff, and said something about how that kind of edge actually looks under a microscope. Like they did test it, so we should drag that down and try to. If you're curious, you can always go check out that video that Naoto made, and then check through the comments there, because there's people have opinions, to say the least.
That's my theory as well. But yeah.
Cool. Well, it is St. Patrick's Day, and I don't know. Are you Irish, Naoto? I'm not very Irish.
No, I don't have my kilts today.
Oh no, I've got a tiny bit Irish, but you know what? Everybody gets to celebrate St. Patrick's Day. I figured I'd grab us a couple of beers to enjoy while we finish answering questions. These are from our friends. Do you want to show yours off, Naoto?
Yes.
These are from our friends at Two Pillars Brewing in Calgary. Here we go. This is the Stumblebee. And you know what? The beer isn't green, but the label is. Here, we'll go up to your head. Yeah. And so this is a caramelized honey double that they made for us with some honey from the beehives. And this is just the last of it. We got a few at the warehouse here.
Knifewear in Kent of Inglewood, our sister store, have the beehives.
Yeah, we sponsor two beehives through ABC Bees every year. So, and they teach and promote sustainable urban beekeeping, essentially. Yeah.
Bees are important, right? And they not only they make the fantastic honey, but they're the big pollinator, right? So
they are important. They make food, and they also make food that food eats.
Yeah.
So kind of necessary.
That's kind of necessary.
I don't know about you guys. I'm a little bit addicted to food. I eat it every day. I don't know about you, Naoto, but without food, I would be a very sad person.
Yeah. But yeah, it's important, and I think I'm pretty happy that the company that we work for does. And we also sometimes collaborate with the ABCBs and send the staff to the beehives and learn about them. And
yeah, we could do little field trips to check out the beehives. Yeah. We've made a couple YouTube videos, so if you need more stuff to watch this weekend, we actually made a video about this beer a couple months ago. Yeah. And we like to support other local businesses. Yeah. So these guys, they brewed a beer for us. We had a party at their brewery. Well, here, Naoto, cheers, since it's St. Patty's Day.
Oh, that's special. That's something special. Cheers.
Woo! Well, happy Friday, everybody. But yeah, let's get to the rest of these questions here. Matthew P. was related to the natural stone question. Are we getting any other natural stones anytime soon? We'd certainly like to.
Yes, we would like to. There are some leftover, I think Ohira Nankuchi, that little softer stones are available online. Smaller, it's a Copa size, I think. That's great for like fogging up the steel. Like Nankuchi means a softer mouth. They use kuchi as the grade. So nan means soft. So you can use that as not the same as the shirosita, but we only got like few shirosita. I think we basically next time we have to just go there again to say hi. Tsujai-san's really nice guy, and he took us to he took us all around. We didn't get to go to I don't think it's allowed, but we didn't get to go to the mountains like where actually he mines. Mm-hmm. He just like pointed at the direction where he has the mountain, and like that's where I get the stones from.
Okay. Well, there you go. Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah, I would really.
It's not for lack of trying, Matthew.
Yeah.
Here's a good one from Kim, asking, "What music do you guys listen to when you're sharpening?"
Oh. Depends on the day. I was listening to I just listen to a lot of Japanese music. These days, a lot of Japanese pops are really cool. Actually, not Japanese rock, Japanese pop. New guys are making some fantastic music these days. So and also some weird things like girl heavy death metal band with the it's like baby metal.
Yep.
But actually girls are doing the death voice.
Nice.
But there is the baby metal part where you see that the girly, so it's like all mixture.
Yeah.
That's weird.
That's awesome. Hey, we love
the
some
music,
weird music.
like the background, the band is very legit.
Yeah, like really technically skilled. Yeah, that's awesome.
So I sometimes listen to those, but
nice.
Yeah, but
yeah, because you've always got your headphones on when you're sharpening.
Yeah.
I usually listen to some kind of jazz, like some like Miles Davis, or some like fusion jazz, like some Al Di Meola, or vaporwave is what I listen to 90% of the time while I'm working. Dave said, thanks for the answer about the Kujira knife. I might bring it to the Toronto store when it opens.
Yeah. Kasumi, who most likely be there.
Yeah.
She is the longest I guess the
longest Knifewear employee.
Yeah, Knifewear employee.
Wow.
So
she 13 years.
She knows all. Yeah.
Wow.
Like a year older than I
think. And you've been here 12 years, right?
So.
Wow.
Yeah, so
you guys got to take your 3-month vacation.
Yeah.
Once you've been at Knifewear for 10 years, you get to take 3-month paid vacation, which is pretty awesome. I'm the first person doing it, even though I haven't been around the longest, because I don't want to go anywhere. I just want to sit in my backyard and hang out with my family. But what are you going to do when you take yours?
I'm probably gonna. It's bad because I may just go back to Japan for a month or so.
Yeah, why not?
And visit not the family, but maybe not
go
a
hang out
related.
with Masashi-san.
Yeah, exactly, right? That's what I probably would do, right?
I mean, that sounds pretty cool.
Yeah. But I mean,
I would spend my personal time visiting blacksmiths if I could.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Sweet.
Yeah, that's what I would probably work for them for. It'd be nice,
That'd be super cool.
Yeah, to know what they do and daily.
Yeah.
Like day to day
Yeah.
stuff, because when you go visit them, you get to see how they do stuff, but you never get to see the full scope of what they do, as well as the always they put there's a guest type of hat on it, right? Oh, there's a guest.
Yeah, it's like when a TV camera shows up.
Exactly.
Like, it's got to look. We got to clean up.
Yeah, exactly. So.
Be professional.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like when you have a guest over, you clean your house a little bit tidy up a little bit more than. So.
You don't play your weird baby metal
Yeah,
while
exactly.
your guests are over.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So something I would like to actually see more insights, like except like Takefu Knife Village, where it is designed for other people to see. Right? It is designed. They have the little walk up
Right.
that they can go up there and see the work every day. So it's a little bit different, right?
Cool.
So yeah, hopefully.
I hope you get to do that. Loner88 says, I have the Ananawa Hibiki 8K as my highest grit stone.
Yeah.
Is that an okay finishing stone for an all-purpose knife, cutting different veggies and meats, or is it too high?
Naniwa 8000, Naniwa Hibiki 8000 is really good stone. It's really hard, so that once you finish sharpening with the Hibiki 8K, it's going to get really, it's apex that you're creating, I guess, like the V that you're creating is going to be really nice and straight, unlike using some other softer stone, right? It's great. I feel the Hibiki 8000 is slightly gives you less polish or the mirror polish than these, say, Knifewear 8000 or some like Arashiyama 8000. So what I'm trying to say is it's going to be a great finishing stone because it will leave not as super smooth finish, but will have enough teeth or the bite to the knife, so, or the food that you're cutting. So it'll be really good stone to have for sure. And it's really nice. It's hard. It can live in the water without really changing any. It's how it's made, right? Fantastic stone to do like planes and stuff. Although plain blades, I will finish with that 8 and bring it to something like a little bit more softer 8 to smooth it out.
Cool. Or you could try a differential. You could try a differential sharpening if you wanted, like sharpen to 1000 grit and then polish one side of the knife. Hassan was asking if there is a sharpening competition. How can we determine the sharpest knife? I'm going to see if I can, without breaking this, play a little clip that I grabbed off our Dropbox. Do you know the one I'm talking about now, Tom?
Yeah. The Shiba thing?
Yeah. Do you, while I try to get that playing, do you want to talk about what he did?
So when his method of testing is to use carrots. So he used the carrots to try to cut thinner, probably about same thickness, about maybe like 1/2 inch or 2 centimeters. No, it's like a centimeter thick of carrots. Try to see how smooth it enters. That determines how thick the behind the edge is, right? And also how smooth it goes. That determines how smooth the bevel is. Then he stacked those medallions.
Oh, here we go.
And he tried to cut with the. So when you cut a carrot with a very sharp knife, the texture of the carrot is so smooth, right? When you try to cut that piece, like medallion down and do that, I don't know if it's playing right now.
Yeah, he just cut the medallion, then he's slicing through it.
It tells how, one, an angle, if it's like, acute angle or a little bit more blunter angle, it tells how smoothly it goes in, and also how toothy that edge is. He likes a little bit bitey edge, so he puts a little bit of a motion, like forward motion, and see if that bites into it. You know what I mean? And that's what I actually been testing the knife as well these days.
Yeah, and in that sharpening the sharpening gadget video that we just shot. Yeah, it's I mean it's super subjective, right? It depends on what you want. Some people use that that thing with the hair where it's like a scale and you put the knife down on it. Yeah. And some people like to use that guy.
That's how thin the edge is, because how thin this last edge is. Yeah. Because it's like the basic physics, as Nathan said, right? The pressure you apply and it concentrates into that one spot. But kitchen knife, it's a kitchen knife, and you are not cutting this way.
Yeah, if you're sharpening a straight razor, that's a great way to test it, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But even then, like with a straight razor, thinness isn't the most important thing because the edge polish. Yeah. If you don't have good edge polish, you scratch up your face.
Yeah, exactly.
And it doesn't feel good.
There are quite a few ways, but I like the Shibata-san's method, so that like I do this on a carrot.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, like you want to test the blade on the medium that you're cutting, right? Like if you're cutting food, that's a good test for your knife. But if you're testing your axe on carrots, it's not a very good test.
And like I say, like if you're a butchering knife, like say, this knife is only dedicated to do the butchering, then if that fine edge doesn't do, try other stuff, right? Like roughing up maybe. It feels like it's grabbing it, then try different type of edge on it.
Yeah, totally. Okay, Andrew Wood has been sharpening a 75mm Masakage petty knife while watching this video and find it tricky to maintain a consistent angle. Any tips when you're sharpening a short blade?
Well, shorter blades are hard and easy. Like really the big thing is that, I don't know if you ever watched the like our basic sharpening video, the thimble comes really handy. Right, like if you have something.
Yeah, the rubber finger protectors. Yeah.
If you want to actually, tape your finger with some not super strong
electrical tape.
Electrical tape or something like that, and that put it like this.
Oh, hold on.
That, make sure every time you put your index finger, it sits on the same spot. Then that gives you the same angle.
Perfect. Yeah, and then just take your time, move slow. Keep that wrist locked. Like that right, I assume if you're right-handed, keep that wrist tight so it's not moving at all. So you're not scooping.
But make sure, same spot touches like this.
Cool.
I find that the thimble trick is really, really good.
It's so good for starting out.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially on a petty knife. Spoon Monkey says, I've seen a few of Fujiwara-san's knives recently thinned and the shinogi raised up quite a lot with more core steel exposed. Is there too much for the Fujiwara as far as like thinning it out, or?
It's really personal preference. I don't like any overexposure on a core steel because it is thinner, right? But it is a risk for the knife to be chipped as easy as well. We've always requested our blacksmith and knife makers and sharpeners saying, do not sharpen too much so that it exposes too much. It is a risk. It chips easier. It's like like porcelain sticking out from the bubble wrap. That's
Totally, yeah. The cladding steel's there for a very good reason. It's a shock absorber, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, it's like bubble wrap. And I suspect Naoto, you and I probably feel a little bit similarly. Like, I think at the end of the day, buy whatever knife makes you happy. But kind of like the Takeda, when we did the Takeda sharpening a month ago, Takedas are meant to sharpen meant to cut a specific way, and he's designed them that way intentionally. And there's nothing wrong with modifying the bevel on a Takeda. But if you're looking for a Takeda knife or a Fujiwara knife, but you want it to cut a bit differently, maybe you don't want a Takeda knife or a Fujiwara knife. Maybe you want a different knife. Like I just got a Hado Sumi, because I like knives that glide really smoothly. I got a Hado Sumi. It's got a super high shinogi. It's crazy tall. There's almost none of the karochi on the blade.
Oh yeah.
And I love it. It's awesome. But it is so different from a Fujiwara or a Takeda. And that's why I bought it, because it's awesome. And I wanted it. I didn't have a knife that had that tall of a bevel. And so I bought it for that reason.
Yeah, I love how they raised the shinogi up, and it almost looks like a wing, right?
Oh, totally. Yeah. It's so cool. And I know you said you asked them to bring it back down a little bit, so I bought one. Now.
I did ask them because it was just like when.
Oh, it's too much for most people. Yeah. But I wanted like the extreme shinogi, and so I bought one right away because I didn't want to miss out. Loner88 says, "Awesome, thanks so much." Follow-up question on the Hibiki. On your site, it says it's a splash and go, but man, is it thirsty.
Oh no, it shouldn't.
Okay.
It shouldn't. Sorry, it shouldn't. It shouldn't. It shouldn't. Thank you. Thanks for.
That brings me to something I've said to people a few times recently. If you see a mistake on our website, shoot me an email, nathan@knifewear.com, and I will fix that.
It shouldn't. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks for pointing it out.
We are humans. We are imperfect, and
if it says splash and go, no, it's super thirsty, and any hibiki stones. I think it's a general idea that like any finer stones like 6,000 and up.
Mm-hmm.
We had to immediately think it's the splash and go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sorry. The hibiki stones, because how it's made and vitrified, it is super thirsty stone. Yes.
Cool. I can't find where it says that, so I'm gonna fix that later. But I will. Naoto, you remind me to fix that.
Yeah.
I think we just got one. No, Andrew Wood just said great idea. As far as the Masakage Petty, and that is the last of our questions. So thank you everybody who tuned in today. It's been really great chatting with you all and answering your questions and everything.
Yeah.
We always appreciate it. If you missed it at the beginning of the episode, we are edging in closer to opening our store in Toronto.
Yes.
I know we've been saying that since like 2020, but that pandemic thing happened and kind of slowed us down a bit.
Yeah.
But we are currently looking at real estate, and so we're getting close. We don't have a date, we don't have a location, but we will soon. Grant says the Knifewear team is very appreciative of feedback and answering questions. Grant emails us at least once a week, helping to very helpfully and gently highlighting a mistake that we've made. And I really appreciate it every time we get an email from Grant, because it's a chance for us to fix a mistake on our website. So, we appreciate you, Grant. But yeah, we love the feedback. We're always looking to get better. So thank you. But yeah, we're going to open Toronto soon. So stay tuned.
Yeah.
Follow us on Instagram or join our mailing list to find out when.
And next week, Kevin and Owen is going to be in Japan. Watch them progress in Japan by following us on Instagram and also Kevin's Instagram as well. There will be probably lots of food pictures.
Yeah. Train pictures.
Yeah.
Maybe some pictures of a blacksmith every now and then.
Yeah.
Grant says thank you both for a great live stream. Best wishes for the new stores. Thank you, Grant.
Yeah.
Where are they visiting Japan?
They're visiting the Kumamoto, Yatsushiro, to see Moritaka-san.
Nice.
Haven't seen them for a very long time, so Kevin's got really excited to see them. And we're going to stay a little bit in Sakai, seeing some people there, as well as we're going up to Takefu Knife Village for. It's where Kevin started.
It's like where it all started. Yeah. That's awesome. I'm really excited. Yeah, he hasn't been for a while now. It's Owen's first time in Japan, so I'm jealous.
I really love to see how Owen sees Japan, because he's never been. He's never really seen those works in action. So like Instagram posts, it'd be probably more interesting, because when I go and do that stuff.
Yeah.
I know.
You're like, I've seen this a million times. No big deal.
Exactly.
Whereas one of us sees, we're like, whoa, giant spring hammer.
So that'd be interesting. I think his perspective is more closer to what everyone else's perspective. So fresh perspective is always good.
And he's gonna bring the phone and the gimbal and shoot a little bit of video while he's there. Yeah. So in our coming videos, it took us a while, but we've been trying to use more of our footage from our Japan trip last April.
Yeah.
So we've got a video coming out about knife factories in the next month. We'll have a video in a couple months about Nigara Hamono. Yeah. So stay tuned. We got lots more great stuff, kind of in line with our Tojiro video from last month.
Yeah.
Like I said, this week we put out a video where we tested ChatGPT on Japanese knives. It was just a goofy, fun video, a little break from the regular stuff, but I hope everybody enjoyed it. If you haven't watched it, go check it out.
Yeah.
Next week, Colin's crazy cleaver skills. We put Colin to the test, see how he stacks up to Chinese chefs on the internet. And I'll be honest, he does pretty well. There was a potential for me to lose my hand in that video. I'm not exaggerating. And I still have both hands, so I'm happy to say that. But yeah, check out our video Monday. It's gonna be pretty funny.
Alrighty.
Cool. Thanks everybody.
Well, thanks everybody. Happy Friday. Happy St. Pat's Day.
Happy St. Patty's Day. And we'll see you next time.
Yeah.
If you have a suggestion for our next Naoto's Nerdy Power Hour, we have some ideas. But if you like this theme that we've been doing, how to sharpen X maker knife, let us know. We can keep that going. Otherwise, we've got lots of other ideas. So if you have suggestions, drop them below in the comments after the video. And yeah, we'll see you in a month. Peace.
Ciao.
Awesome. Great work, Naoto.
Thank you.